Hello, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a repeat guest on with me tonight from episode 1, the Iowa High School Football Hall of Famer, Central College Hall of Famer, Kevin Sanger. How you doing tonight, Kev?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Dan.
Good. I'm excited for this one because we're going to nerd out and we're going to dig deep and talk about some West Hancock football. Before we get to that, though, like always, need to recognize my sponsors. The goal is always to raise money for the Sanger Legacy Fund, let people tell their stories and reminisce. I have 18 sponsors tonight, as you can see on my background. That would be the Britt Car, Truck, Bike, and Tractor Night Cruise, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, Daniel's Auto Collision, Nick Schmidt, Sidetrack Lanes, Wilson's Diner, the Britt Food Center, Levi Dawn Trucking, Miller & Sons Golf Cars, the Britt Vet Clinic, the World with Nate podcast, the Original Saw, the West Hancock Hall of Fame, Coogee Power Washing, Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance, First State Bank, West Side Eagle Storage, and Eric Krull with Ag Performance in Buffalo Center. Just a reminder, those sponsors give money to the Sanger Legacy Fund, which was created to honor the late great Coach Bob Sanger and his wife, Mrs. Linda Sanger. Please consider giving or sponsoring. You can go to sangerstrong.com to do that. You can set up recurring payments on there, however you want to do it. Get a hold of me if you'd like to sponsor. Fall sports, I think. Kevin, does football start like next Monday or something like that? The 3rd?
Yeah, I asked Mark. I want to say it's like the 3rd. I think they said it was the first day, something like that. So it's right around
camps and stuff. Yeah, so that's coming up. That means volleyball, cross country are going to follow shortly after. So we're excited for another season of fall sports. Way back when segment, like always, I do this to give my past podcast more views and my sponsors more advertising. And this was a Sanger special unintentionally here. 10 episodes ago on episode 37, I talked to Bob Horner, who just retired as the Mason City softball coach. 20 episodes ago on episode 27 was Mark Sanger. 30 episodes ago on episode 17 was the 96 football team, which was Jeff Sanger's senior season. 40 episodes ago on episode 7 was Rick Sanger. And now tonight I have Kevin Sanger. So all 4 Sanger boys represented there in that way back when. Get to a few sponsors here, and then we're going to talk some football. The West Hancock Hall of Fame is finally here at halftime of the Garner game on August 26th. The first ever members of the West Hancock Hall of Fame will be announced. After the game, there will be a reception at the Britt Country Club to honor the inductees. Please come to the game and the reception to honor these amazing coaches, athletes, and teams from Britt, Kanawha, and West Hancock. Thanks to Steve Lansing, former athletic director in the committee, and the Sanger Legacy Fund for making this happen. Kevin, what are you most excited for the Hall of Fame thing?
Oh, I think it'll be fun just to see people, and a lot of great history there and a lot of great people to recognize and pay tribute to their accomplishments. That's for sure.
That's going to be a fun night. My next sponsor is Coogee Professional Power Washing. They're not just another business that's going to overcharge you for a service you cannot do yourself. At Coogee Professional Power Washing, they offer affordable rates for a detail-oriented job. Coogee Professional Power Washing will make your house as clean and presentable as the day you bought it. On top of that, they also do driveways, which take away years of dirt and grime. Call Coogee Professional Power Washing today for an appointment at 641-903-1031. That's Brighton Coogee. He's now a senior at West Hancock, and talking to him, he's working his tail off along with all of his teammates to win title number 3 this fall. West Side Eagle Storage, owned by Kim Dolphin, is my next sponsor. Kim was born in Britt and loves everything about living in a small town. She's excited to offer Britt and the surrounding communities a place to store their possessions, provide an opportunity to clear space in their growing homes, or a place to put your extra vehicle, golf cart, or motorcycle. That's West Side Eagle Storage. Call Kim at 641-251-1863. And then Nick Schmidt, like always, has been sponsoring the podcast. He's a 2000 West Hancock grad, and he wanted to give back to the Sanger Legacy Fund and his hometown. So thanks again to Nick Schmidt for sponsoring. And then the World with Nate podcast is my next sponsor. Nate Allison is the brother of a friend of ours here in Indianola. He has his own podcast called The World with Nate. He hits on a lot of great topics, and his goal is just to help and inspire people. Nate's a native Iowan, and he loves helping people reach their dreams through his podcast. Check it out. That's The World with Nate. It's on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you can find your podcast. And give him a follow on social media. That's his full-time job, source of income is the podcast. So if you could support Nate, that would be great. All right, Mr. Sanger, here we go. We're going to talk some West Hancock football. If people have watched any of these podcasts or they have a record book at home, they know that we kind of like our stats and our numbers and our West Hancock football. So what are you thinking as we're going to jump into this?
I like the first question you posed was the comparison of the state title teams. And I know for a fact that the 73 team and the 96 team had debates, I think, every morning up at Swanson's Hardware after their games of the 96 season, because Joe Eisman worked up there. Of course, they were bantering back and forth between John and themselves of which team was better. So I'll give my 2 cents worth, but I'm not sure that's worth much.
John in the press box one night at a game talked about, we only had 10 games, so the stats are going to be skewed. And I'm like, oh, we need Al DeWaard to get on this and have some kind of algorithm for us to balance it out, because 13 games compared to 10 is going to make the numbers a little different. So so we're going to start with kind of the teams that we've talked a lot about on the podcast and in general, the 4 state title teams, 1973, 1996, 2019, and 2021. Hopefully we do this again in a year or two. We can add another one to it. What do you think? You had to who was the best running team? Who was the best overall team? Who was the best on defense? Let's just.
That's an interesting question, because the first thing I think of is they're in different classes. So the 73 team was in 2A, the 96 team was in 1A. You know, the most recent 2 were in both in Class A. You know, and it's hard to compare different classes of football. The first thing I think of is, you know, the 73 team, to our standards, threw the ball quite a bit more. You know, Jim Deemer is probably by far the most prolific passer in our history. I don't know if you can use the word prolific in our passing game, but he certainly had a lot of yards. You know, and one of the first things I think of is, you know, Bob Swears was a state champion caliber sprinter playing fullback for us, which made our offense pretty dynamic. And I obviously was not very old. I was only 3 years old at the time. Dad talked about that team all the time, but when they had the reset or the get together at Jim and Renee's house here in 19, they had a video of the game. And that's the first time I'd actually seen video of the game. And the first thing I noticed is that, you know, they were running quick pitch to the fullback left and right, which made sense, give Bob the ball. But certainly a lot of names in that team I remember Dad talking about, from Bob Swears to Jim Deemer to Gary Buns to Rick Klein to Doug Pooch to Mark Stevenson. I mean, you name it. There's just a lot of names there that Dad talked about a lot. And Dad always talked about Louis Banker kicking the pylon in the end zone, frustrated when they scored or whatever it was. But, you know, I grew up Dad talking about that team, you know, just thinking, oh gosh, that's a pretty awesome team. You know, you get into some of the later ones, the 96 team, you know, I paid pretty close attention to that for a number of reasons. Number one, my brother played on the team, and a really explosive offense. You know, we had all 3 of those guys, actually all 4 of those guys in the backfield, including Chad, were sprinters in the track team. And Chad Klein was probably the best running quarterback we've had. You know, Tony Boothroyd's up there as well, I'd say. But when you have your quarterback can run like that, plus the 3 backs, pretty awesome. The 96 team, the one game that sticks out to me is the game with Lake Mills. When we played Lake Mills up there, I mean, it was a score fest. It was like
76-28.
Yeah, I mean, there was just tons of offense. We scored, I think, 3 touchdowns on special teams, and it was back and forth. And that Lake Mills team was really good, probably as good as anybody else we played in the playoffs. Unfortunately, they would meet first round, but certainly a very good team. Then you get into the 2 most recent years, 19 and 21, you know, kind of a similar type story. The 19 team, you think of those 3 running backs as being, you know, all over 1,000 yards, which is kind of unheard of. The other thing I think about the 19 team is we substituted 4 completely different defensive linemen that came in and out. There wasn't even a drop off, and that's pretty unheard of to have that depth in a Class A team. And that team was just really dominant, in my opinion. I mean, I think they were at least a 2-3 touchdown better team than anybody in the state. They were really good. You know, then you get to the 21 team, and I don't know if we've ever had a team that's come as close as they possibly could to play to their potential. We played great defense, didn't turn over the ball, didn't give up big plays. We're very efficient on offense, a team that really played together well. So, I mean, certainly 4 fun teams to talk about. I don't know how you would differentiate who was the best, or I think
Yeah.
each team kind of has their distinctive qualities, but certainly fun to talk about.
And I think, you're talking about your dad thinking through some of these, the first one is always special. He went from 68 to 72 and he only won one game, 2 or 3, 4. I mean, so he only won maybe 10 games going into that 73 season. So this was kind of his, coming out party, and the program was finally starting to gel a little bit. And of course, obviously they had a pretty loaded team. And then 96 with Jeff being a senior, I think was huge for your dad. And then also, lost 3 state title games, lost close games in the semifinals. So to finally get that championship that was, so close for so many years had to have been a great thing. And then 2019, we all know with him going through his illness and stuff, that was a great way to honor him. And then the 21 team, man, I like you said, playing up to their potential. I don't think I've ever enjoyed watching West Hancock football more than I did this year's team. It was like and Mark kept saying it too. He goes, they're just coachable, they're hard workers, and I just loved watching the defense. I think I could have almost fast forward through some of the offense just to get back to watching them get another 3 and out. And just almost dominant, but in a non flashy way. I thought the 19 team was much more flashy because they had a lot more horses. This 21 team just got down to business and got it done every single week. So
no doubt. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So if you had to go, which one of these 4 teams would you pick if, not saying the best team, but your favorite team to watch or be a part of?
I mean, the 19 team was pretty special just because of the circumstances, and one of my fondest memories is watching that state title game and the semifinal game with Dad in that box in the end zone. I mean, it brought tears to my eye. He was so darn excited, and for that reason, that's probably a pretty special memory for me. Just because of the circumstances. Dad wanted to go down and see the team after the game, and he would have stayed in that hallway for a month, I think, if you'd let him, just talking to the kids and being there. And he was pretty darn excited. I know that. And that was fun to see. And he took great pride in that. The one thing he always talked about too, and he was super proud of this, is the coaches on the coaching staff all having come through the program. And I think he loved that. He just loved having those guys that were very dedicated to the program, very loyal, really passionate about West Hancock football. And that was pretty cool too. Dad loved being around that group of guys.
Yeah, so definitely. I have a top 10 list here. Top 10 running backs by yardage on these 4 teams. So I went through all the stats of the 4 teams, 73, 96, 2019, 2021, and at a top 10 list of who accumulated the most yards rushing wise of those 4 teams. So 10 was Nick May from the 96 team with 693 yards, which I look at that number and go, Nick May anywhere else could have been like a 1,500 yard rusher because he was athletic. But when you have Jeff Sanger and Chad Klein and Jeremy Heyer to share the ball with, that's it's gonna.
I think he was like a sub 23 flat guy in the 200 too in track, so he was cool.
Yep. Number 9, Mark Stevenson from the 73 team, 872 yards. Number 8, Chad Klein from the 96 team with 899 yards. And that's from the quarterback position. So that's straight bootleg. I mean, he got a lot of those yards in big chunks, but it wasn't like he ran 10 times a game, or, fullback run 30 times. He'd maybe get 3 or 4 carries a game, and he got.
Doesn't he have the record for like a 96-yard run?
96, 90, yeah, something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's up in the top 2 or 3 at least. I can't remember off the top of my head. Number 7, Jeff Sanger from 96 with 910 yards. Again, Jeff could have been, I compared if he was played when Mark played in the late 90s, early 2000s. Mark, your brother, had almost 2,000 yards his senior year. Jeff easily could have done that in a different setting, but such a balanced team. Number 6, Cole Kelly from 2019 with 1,184 yards. Joe Smith in 2019 with 1,270 yards. And for those two to get that many yards sharing the ball with Tate was incredible as well. Jeremy Heyer, number 4, 1996 team with 1,467 yards. Bob Swears is third from 73 with 1,800 yards even. Matthew Francis, number 2 from last year with 1,923 yards. And then the top running back of the 4 state title teams was Tate Hagen from 2019, 2,352 yards. Tate could have been 3,500 yards, honestly, again, if he wasn't sharing the ball with everybody else. Pretty incredible. So I just thought that was kind of fun to share. If you had to assemble a team, Kevin, and you had to pick 3 of those guys or any other guys in your backfield, and we'll give you a quarterback, who's your backfield? Who's your?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. This is a tough one. I'd have to take those top 4 guys. I'm gonna take the easy way out and take the top 4 there.
So Tate, Francis, Bob Swears, and Jeremy Heyer.
And I'm not really answering your question because I don't have a quarterback in there either.
Who would be your quarterback?
Probably Chad.
But I mean, of the 4 guys, Heyer, Swears, Francis, Hagen, you picked 4 fullbacks.
I know. You can't go wrong with a fullback, can you?
Not at quarterback, maybe in some aspects. In our offense, it would be like the Smith boy right now. Just put him out in the Wildcat and let him run.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a lot of good. We've had so many good players over the years, but boy, I tell you, that's a great running back list. That's for sure.
Yeah. When Kevin and I came up with this idea of doing this podcast this way, we talked about doing like a 3 deep, the top 3 guards, right guard, top 3 left, and we're like, that's going to be impossible to do because there's just too many to pick from. So,
one of my favorite, Dad loved the fullback, is when we played, I don't know what year that was, Newman and Jake Zool. I think he ran the ball 17 times in a row.
97 in the playoffs or the regular season?
I'm not sure if it was the playoffs or the regular season. I want to say it was the playoffs, but I just kind of epitomizes kind of our fullback and our offense. It's like, you're going to get the ball, and you're going to get it again. So keep running.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've told this story, but maybe in Aaron Rasmussen's episode, but 2003, we played Forest City at home. We're 1A, almost on the cups of A. They're 3A. And we got the ball, I don't know, like the 10-yard line or so, going, the long way. And I was running in plays at tackle with Andrew Schmidt, and then Mitch Horseman and Derek Ing were rotating at fullback. And your dad put his arm on me and said, 245 dive, 6 yards. I come out, Schmidt, 245 dive, Schmidt, 4 yards, first down. We did that all the way down to like the 10-yard line, play after play. Forest City just kept stacking that side of the defense to try to just take it away from us. And then your dad grabbed me and he goes, all right, was it 327 bootleg, and just or whatever it was, or a sweep. I don't remember what it was, but
my junior year, I played with Pat Kelly, and Pat was in phenomenal shape, great wrestler. And even he at times would get tired because we just keep pumping him the ball. And so it kind of makes you wonder, even a guy like that gets tired sometimes.
I'm not to get ahead of ourselves, but I'm curious with this 2022 team. I think one of the question marks still is fullback. I think the younger Zool kid, I think the Bixler kid from the JV team, there's some they got some good options. They got some really good options. Yeah. But is there going to be that 35 time a game type of guy, so I don't.
It'll be interesting. They've been pretty fortunate the last 3 years. They've had some awfully good fullbacks. When you think of Cole, Matthew, and Tate, that's a pretty awesome trio there, I tell you that.
Yeah, been fun to watch. Keeps me busy updating the record book most weeks. So
yeah, for sure.
I got the thought here, again, not getting too far off track, but I send Kevin and a bunch of guys a weekly update every week on when do I do it, on Saturdays or Sundays during the football season. And I was sitting working on the book I'm writing right now, and I was like, I kind of want to take a break from this and work on the Garner Week email I'm going to start sending out in a few weeks. I was like, it's too early for that, but always fun to
be here before we know it. That's for sure.
Oh man, a month from yesterday. So yeah. All right, let's get to runner-up teams. We had 4 teams finish runner-up in the state: 1986, 1987, 1993, and 2011. You got to play in 2 title games, the 86 and 87 games. We talked about this in your episode 1, but real quick here, what do you remember about those games? Kind of your thoughts and feelings to this day on coming so close.
The first thing you think of frustration, the 86 and 87 teams I played on. I played in those games, and it was difficult because obviously we didn't win. You know, the 86 team, I didn't play much, but got beat by Linville Sully. And they had the other thing is that we played against good teams, obviously, but the frustration of not being able to maybe play our best. That's the thing I think of. I don't know that we played our best game, and that's frustrating when that happens. But certainly a great experience. I'll never forget the feeling of winning the games. At 86, we beat Ackley at home to go to the Dome, and then 87, we beat IKM in the semis to go to the Dome, and those are pretty awesome experiences. And then obviously to get a chance to play in the Dome and play in the state finals is pretty awesome, but not to finish it off is certainly frustrating. Yep. But great memories though. You know, the 93 team, you know, the thing you always think of is, gosh, we were ahead 21-0 and then got beat. I know that probably one of the games that irked my dad the most. 2011 game, you know, another one that we could certainly won, you know, and we had some unfortunate circumstances there with Gerardo getting hurt. That was kind of heartbreaking for him and for everybody, but certainly good memories and good teams there.
To add some context, you said to win in the semis to get to the Dome. Nowadays, people know if you win in the quarters, you go to the Dome for semis and the finals. But back then, it wasn't until like 98 when it officially went to semis and finals were in the Dome. And then the 95, 96, 97, we just happened to get to play in the Dome in the semis, but not every team got to. Even up till that point, a lot of teams still played outdoors in the semifinals. So I think 98 was the first official year everybody played in the Dome.
Yeah. You know, one memory I have, and this is about the 93 team, actually two things. My mom would always call me pretty much every night, kind of give me updates. This was before cell phones, and give me kind of the updates of the game. And Nate Smith, I believe it was in the quarterfinals at West Lyon, scored a long touchdown run as a running back, had an interception return for a touchdown. And I think he had a punt return or something. He scored three different variety of ways that you could, which was kind of a cool memory. I remember my mom kind of relaying the information to me. And then the 2011 team had two really good games. The Lamar's Galen game, I think, was first round.
Quarterfinals.
Okay. And then we played Madrid in the semis, and that was a wild game too.
It was 47-40 and then 48-38 against Madrid.
And that's the one thing. I don't know if our teams have gotten more explosive, but boy, it seems like we score a lot more points. We have a lot more bigger plays. And I know when I was playing, like Pat Kelly and Nick Smith, they were looking for somebody to hit. They didn't really want to have a long run. Literally the three yards in a cloud of dust.
Well, I think the Schlugger boys were the perfect combo. Chris was 6'4", 240. He's playing in the Canadian Football League now as a lineman, but you would pound it inside to him 4 or 5 times and then suck the defense in. And Zach was just fast and elusive. They were fun to watch. And then you had Gerardo on the other side. Cox kid could throw the ball a little bit, but yeah, they were
fun team to watch. That's for sure.
They were a broken leg away from winning that state title.
Literally.
And that would have been a lot of fun. I remember I took my Southeast Warren football team to that game. We watched Fremont Mills beat Murray 81-0 in the 8-man game. And then the Britt game was 14-12. It was a little bit of a difference, but yeah, the thing I remember from the 93 team, I was 7, so I didn't actually actively go to watch a lot of games or be a part of it or anything. I think I've told, I forget what episode, this is episode 47, but I've told the story. We popped that tape, that VHS tape, into your dad's TV in his office. And, you know, we'd always watch like our last game, the opponent's game, and then we'd go to the vault and watch one of the old games. And we popped that thing in the VCR, and your dad walked in about 5 minutes later. He didn't look at that for more than 2 seconds, and he said, "Take that out of the VCR right now and never put it back in there again." We're like, oh boy.
You know, the other game that year, we played Northwest Lorenz
in the semis.
That was a fantastic game. That was a good team we had. It was back and forth. And we scored. Dan Cooper caught that pass in the back of the end zone. I don't know if there was 30 seconds left.
No, I think there was like 4. It was
quite an ending.
Yeah. I got the film of that, just the last little bit of the game. Someone sent me that I'm going to use when I do the Dan Cooper episode. So that should be a lot of fun. Yeah. So our 4 championship losses were by a combined 20 points, lost by 12, 5, 1, and 2 points in those 4 games. I'm guessing the 93 game hurt your dad the most. That's the one that he couldn't get over as quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I kind of said it before. It's just frustrating because I don't like this 21 team this year. I thought we really played well, in the state final game. These games, I just can't necessarily say that we probably played our best games, which if you play your best game and get beat, that's one thing, but when you don't play your best or kind of leave something out there, sometimes that's frustrating. I know it's got something to do with the opponent you're playing, but certainly the 93 game probably hurt him and frustrated him quite a bit, especially when you have that big a lead. But
hypothetically, just talking runner-up games, runner-up teams, we're looking at 8 state championships right there.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah. Talk about and these 4 were all winnable. And then what's really going to make you sick here in a little bit is when we get to the semifinals. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But man, those were all games that if we would have won that semifinal game, more than likely would have won the title.
Yeah, I know. Like the 87 game, I threw an interception to start the game. That obviously didn't help. I think of that all the time. Just can't turn the ball over. Kills you.
Yeah. The fun part, not fun, but 34 years later, you're still frustrated about it. To me, going back to the Britt West Hancock way, like it's important and it means a lot. I think that's kind of neat how much people care.
Very true.
A player, a fan, a coach, you fill in the blank. It's a
very
big
true.
deal. Yeah. So, all right, let's we're gonna get to some sponsors here, then we're gonna move on to the semifinals and just keep talking through some fun stuff. I want to thank Jim Deemer and the Britt Vet Clinic for sponsoring the podcast. The Britt Vet Clinic is located in downtown Britt. They're there for all your small animal vet needs and swine vet services. Call the Britt Vet Clinic at 843-3416 or email them at brittvetclinic@gmail.com. Thanks to the Britt Car, Truck, Bike, and Tractor Night Cruises. Jared Wingert and his company run these great events. One already took place on July 20th. The next one's on August 17th. And then September 21st. They're all on Wednesday nights, so it should be easy for the family to get up to. He also owns Mojo Productions and has lived in Britt for over 15 years now, and he is amazing at promoting Britt and his businesses, and always like seeing his posts on social media. This 5th annual event has free kids activities, trophies are presented for all categories, and a $1,000 award is given out at each show. You can't beat free admission and great food and drink from Britt vendors only. Check out the video on BrittCarCruise.com to learn more. And then Eric Kroll of Ag Performance in Buffalo Center is my next sponsor. Ag Performance is the leader in conventional seed throughout the Midwest. They also have a product called Xylem that is fighting against fusarium, stalk rot, white mold, and other vascular diseases. Contact Eric at 515-341-3361 if you want a higher net return on your fields. Michael and Brianne Ewing of Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company is my next sponsor. They have locations in Britt, Kanawha, Clarion, Belmont, and Dow's. Mike's a 1998 graduate of West Hancock, and his family's been privileged to care for the communities of Britt and Kanawha since 1977. You can find him online at ewingfh.com or on Facebook, or give him a call at 843-3839 or 762-3211. That's Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company. Thanks again to the Ewings. Levi Don Trucking is my next sponsor. Thanks to Levi and his trucking company for sponsoring several episodes. And I just talked to Levi the other day. He said, as long as you're doing this podcast, I'm sponsoring it. So a lot more money from Levi coming into the legacy fund. So I want to thank Levi again. Call him at 641-860-0077 or look him up on Facebook. And then the Original Saw Company is the leader in American-made radial arm saws, crosscut power saws, and beam saws. They also offer accessories such as extension tables, measuring and clamping systems, dust shrouds, and miter saw stands. Original Saw's product line includes items for both the hobby woodworker and complex automated industrial settings. Sister company, Williams and Hussey Machine and Tool, manufactures and sells molders and accessories for making custom and stock moldings and trim. Original Saw provides, through Jones Machinery, a preventative maintenance and repair service of wood and metalworking machinery throughout the Midwest. Want to know more about the Original Saw Company? Check them out at originalsaw.com. And speaking of another Kevin, that's Kevin Wilson's. He's the one who I got hooked up with the sponsorship for Original Saw. I've had to practice that ad many, many times. He threw a lot of big, fancy words in there that I have no clue what they even look like. I had to look up pictures of them. So I had to practice that one a lot. But I'm excited to hear Kevin and Jay here in a couple weeks get going for some football broadcasting.
They do a great job.
Oh, it's fun. And I'll be at that first game. I'm guessing you'll be up there as well. That's the night of the Hall of Fame. So that'll be a lot of fun. All right, let's get to the semifinals. We lost in the semifinals in 1988, 95, 97, 2006, 2007, and 2018. A little context as well. When the playoffs started in 72, there was only 4 teams. So when that first round game happened, they called that a first round game. It technically was a semifinal game, but the state called it first round. And then they went to 8 teams eventually, and then they went to 16, they went to 32, and now back to 16. But the state's done a good job of keeping it consistent with what you call certain rounds of the playoffs. So who would you say were like the semifinal team here between those 6 years kind of stands out to you the most? You remember ones that should have won a state title? What are you thinking?
Well, gosh, I think of the 18 team against Hudson.
Mhm.
That's probably the most, well, maybe it's because it's just most recent. I can remember it better. But boy, we're really close in that game. We've turned the ball over a few times in the first half, and we came back like gangbusters the second half. And you think of that with the recent string we've put together, we're real close to winning another one that year too, We really kind of came along into that season. I think we had 2 losses during the regular season, or one. I know Gary beat us that year. And Garner beat us, so we really came on and played well at the end of the year. So I guess that one sticks out first and foremost.
Yeah, we had 4 fumbles, I think, in the first quarter.
Yeah, we were down, I think Joe Smith said it on his podcast. We were down, 28-7, I think, in that game early.
Yeah.
We came roaring back. That's the thing. A lot of teams don't know how to play against a team like us, or don't like to play against a team like us, because hardly anybody runs the offense like we do anymore. When I was in high school, it was more common. But, of all those games, my brothers and I kind of talk frequently, and the one game that kind of sticks out is that game against Sigourney, and we might have been able to play them 10 times. I don't know if we would have ever beat them.
No.
They were a lot better than us that year.
That game's on YouTube, and
they were good up front.
I think we had 40 yards of offense that whole game or something like that.
There was a bunch of those kids at Sigourney we tried recruiting at Central that year. They had a really stellar team that year. Coach Howard, the coach that they had there, always talked about that team being pretty good as far as his recollection, the teams he's coaching. He's coaching.
When Howard went to Webster City, he brought his Webster City teams down to the Central team camps. And myself and Coach McMartin's brother, the one who passed away, we got assigned to Webster City, and I was excited because Coach Howard was a lot like your dad, and Coach Southmaid and Don Anderson and some of those guys, just kind of from that generation, and his one-liners were amazing.
He's a great dude.
Yep. And Webster City's been outstanding since he took over there. I think they've been in a championship game or 2.
Yeah, I think they played Pella one year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's done well. But yeah, that 95 game wouldn't have gone our way any direction, I don't think.
The rest of those games, I'd say they're very winnable. The 88 team was kind of unique because I played in that game, and a few of those guys I played with in college. But then the 97 team, that was within reach. The 2006-7, we already talked about 18, but certainly winnable games. Some of that comes down to just not making mistakes and not giving up big plays and being efficient on offense, and kind of the things you always talk about, and playing good football. But
the Dome, I mean, there was a string there where the Dome, we just could not win there. We won it all in 96. That kind of snapped that streak of 86, 87, 88, 93, 95. We kept losing. We won it in 96. And then 97, 2002 quarterfinals, 2005 quarterfinals, and then 06, 07 semis, we lost in the Dome. 2011, we won one, lost one. So we finally got one there. But then, I mean, there was a string where the Dome was not kind to us. And now we've won, 4 in a row.
Yeah, it's a different place to play. You don't have to deal with the elements. And speed becomes more of a factor because you're not worried about slipping and falling. And, it's different for how we play ball. It's certainly conducive for a team that wants to chuck it around and throw it. But, the other part of it is too, is when you get there, you're playing good teams. It's not like you're playing patty cakes, but, it's tough to, when you get to that level of the playoffs, those games are tough to win regardless of where they're at.
I think there's two arguments you can make. One is, man, if this championship game and the semifinal games were played outdoors, Britt West Hancock would have 15 state titles because, running the ball like that in that weather and you can't pass it as well. But I also see the argument of it's hot down there in the dome. That wears you out. And as a running team, you think that would wear out a defense more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But the passing game is where you don't have to worry about the wind and
Yep. No, it's different. That's for sure.
So
that's for sure.
We always have those talks at Hobo Days or whatever of woulda, coulda, shoulda. And the part that gets me here is the next part I'm going to talk about. So of the 6 teams that beat us in the semis, in 1988, Grundy beat us 14-7. They went on and beat Pekin 20-7 in the title game. In 95, we lost to Sigourney 14-0. They beat West Lyon 14-10 for the championship. In 97, this one really hurts. Wapsie Valley beat us 22-18. They went on to beat Pekin 40-15. And Pekin was good. That next year, they won the championship by like 40 points.
Yep.
2006, IKM Manning, or it was just IKM back then. They beat us 14-6. They beat Wapsie Valley 33-13. So that wasn't a close game. 2007. Oh, that one hurt. 31-29. We lost to Lawton Bronson, and then Wapsie beat Lawton 22-14. So that was the only time we lost in the semis where the team that beat us didn't win the championship. And then in 2018, this one again, they all hurt, but this was more recent. We should have beat Hudson, and then they dominated AHSTW 30-7 in the finals. I mean, hypothetically, there you're looking at 5 more titles. You never know. Obviously, it's all about matchups. We could get to that game and play, but if you're just looking at the numbers, it's like, 4-point loss, and then that team wins by 25 in the finals. But
makes you think. And I guess the flip side of that is you look at that. We've been in the mix a lot of years, and that's pretty something to be proud of as far as being a competitive program year after year and being there and being in the mix and being in the conversation, and that's pretty cool too. So.
Yep. My most memorable semifinal moment was actually off of the field outside of the dome. 2007. I'm guessing you've heard this story. Is when we played Lawton Bronson at the dome. It was the same weekend we played Wartburg up in Waverly, 2007 for the conference title. Both teams are 9-0. I asked Coach Mack if I could go to the Britt game and then just meet you guys at the Central game Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Mack was like, don't do anything stupid, but go. And so I went to the Britt game, and then about 50 Central kids went to Waverly that night, a bunch of the baseball players, some of my friends, and we stayed at our buddy's grandma's house that night. We were supposed to. We went off, downtown or whatever, and then a buddy's like, hey, I have a friend from high school who has a house over here. Let's go hang out at their house. I'm like, okay, let's go. We go. And we're up, most of the night, like a lot of college kids are, and being loud. I brought my backpack with me with my khakis, my polo, my sweatshirts for the game as a student assistant coach. And I woke up the next morning, I got showered, got ready, and I'm waiting for my buddy to pick me up. And I'm wearing all my Central stuff. And the roommate in the basement they told me about was Neil Suko, the starting running back.
Oh, yeah.
For
Fredericksburg.
From Fredericksburg, and he was not real happy because I guess we were a little too loud the night before a pretty big game. And so my buddies were like, wow. Coach Max says don't do anything stupid, and you stay the night at the starting running back's house of the opposing team the night before the conference title game. So
wow.
Coach Evans heard about that one. Somehow it got back to the team bus, and he wasn't real thrilled with me, but good times. But, anything else semifinal wise? Sorry to go off a little tangent there, but
no, that's good. No, I just, like I said, it's nice to be in the mix all those years, and you just like to think you can win more than your share, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. And the thing is, most, what percentage of high school programs in the state of Iowa are extremely jealous of Britt West Hancock? We get upset because we lost in the semifinals, and most schools are like, we would kill to be in the semifinals just once. So it's just a different
That's
perspective.
certainly a lot of factors that go into that, from community support to the parents, to the coaches, to the players, to,
Yep.
and like we talked about earlier, people care. And that's a big first step, you could be in a situation where nobody really cared, and that's far worse. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get to some quarterfinal teams. This is where we have brought home the most trophies, the quarterfinal round. Some years you had to win 2 games to get to the quarterfinal. Some years it was just 1 win to get to the quarters. Depends on how many qualifiers there were. Why do you think the quarterfinals has kind of been where we've settled, per se? We have 32 football trophies at the school, 11 of them say quarterfinals on them. Why do you think that is?
I don't know if there's necessarily a reason. I mean, I look at it. I mean, we're a top 8 team in the state when you make it to the quarterfinals. I think there's something pretty noteworthy about that. I look at that list of teams that we played. There's some good teams in that list too. From Pocahontas to Emmitsburg to North Fayette. I mean, there's some good games in there. Some of those teams too. There's some pretty salty teams in that mix that we played.
It's one of those, like, the state title was decided in the second round, the quarterfinals some years. Emmitsburg, North Fayette. I mean, you get past that and who knows, you probably could have gone a little bit farther. But the years we lost in the quarterfinals: 1984, 85, 92, 94, 2000, 2002, 2005, 2010, 16, 17, and 2020 were the 11 seasons that ended in the quarterfinals. Again, how many of these teams do you think would have at least been in the title game, if not won the championship, get past the quarters?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm just trying to look back. The 84 team kind of is the year we kind of got things rolling. That's when John Weiland played. And you talked about it in John's podcast, but we had to go to Southampton. That was the game before, play 2 different nights in the first round. So I think that took a little gas out of us to turn around and then go to Pokey. In the earlier years, you played on Wednesday night and then you came back again, played on Saturday. Like when we went to Morris Orange City, we played Wednesday night against Manson, and then we turned around again and played on Saturday. And that was a really tough turnaround.
Yeah.
You basically had 2 days to go play.
And when I was in school, it was Wednesday, Monday, Friday if you made it to semifinals.
I certainly like it a lot more now how they do it. The North Fayette had a really good team that year. In 94, Emmitsburg, I know, was pretty salty. 2000, heck, that might be the best Emmitsburg team they ever had.
Yeah, 40 to nothing. That was Mark's last game.
Yeah. The 2002 game against Dyke New Hartford, we had that game won. It was
that hurt.
25. Yeah. The 2005 game against Valley of Elgin, we gave up about 2 big plays that really hurt.
Yep.
The 2016 game against Garrigan, I think we could have easily won. We had a lot of yards in the first half. We just didn't stick it in the end zone. Those are games that stick out, I guess, to me. Again, play here, play there makes a big difference.
2017, though, it was like the 95 Sigourney semi game. We could have played West Sioux 100 times.
Yeah.
They would have beat us 100 times. Some Division I athletes on that team. Oh my gosh.
They were pretty good. We had to hang on to the ball against them and just try to move it because they were so good on offense.
Just burned the clock. Yep. That I felt bad. That was Coach Perkins' last game before he stepped down. I always hate to go out on that.
That might be as good an offensive team as we've played.
Oh yeah. Yep.
A lot of those guys were young that year too, because a lot of those guys that were seniors in 19 were sophomores.
Yep.
We're playing quite a few young guys too.
We were pretty reliant on those guys. West Sioux beat St. Albert 55-21 in the semis, and then Hudson 35-14 in the finals. So no one came close to those guys. That 2002 game you talked about, the Dyke New Hartford game, I think again in Rass's episode I talked about this one. 4th and 25, we just stop them, we win the game. Did a long crossing pattern, tipped off one guy's fingertips, went to another guy. I think they picked up like 26 yards. And then
we were rolling in that game too. I mean, they could not stop us, but we couldn't stop them either,
Yep. Yeah. My buddies played on that team, and the middle linebacker I went to church camp with for 10 years. He had 30 tackles in that game, which is still a Dyke New Hartford school record.
I believe it.
It wasn't too hard. I just had to stand there and let that number 5 run me over and just hold on to him. Got a tackle. But yeah. I look at this and I go, you're probably looking at a couple state championship games in the quarterfinals. You ran into a couple teams that no one was going to beat regardless of the round. I know 2002, we should have been in the state title game. I don't think we would have won that against Akron, but we should have been there. 2010 is kind of a weird one because it was just the year after 2 losing seasons, 2-7 and 3-6 in 2008, 2009. Played a ton of young kids, including the Schluggers. And so that was kind of their coming out party.
Yep.
Had a lot of fun watching that team play. Lost in Lamar's Galen. That Lamar's Galen team, they should have won a title. They were freakishly good for a Class A team, especially offensively. That was
a tailback they had was really good. I think he went on and played at USD, I think.
Yeah, their quarterback was good. They had some good linemen, but yeah, quarterfinals, 11 trophies, most of any round that we've had. And the next one, we only have one of these trophies at school, the second round. So what happened in 2008 was they added to the playoff qualifiers. They went from 16 to 32. And I believe for the first 2 years, the first round of 32 was considered sub-state. But then a couple years later, they changed that. And then they went back and changed the wording of that and said, well, if you were in the round of 32, that's the first round. Round of 16 is the second round, and then it went to the quarterfinals. So we lost just once in the second round because there's only been a few years of it now. 2012, which was right after our runner-up season, where we lost to Lisbon 14-12.
Yep.
Still had Chris Schlugger. We beat Woodbury in the first round and then lost to Akron in the second round, 28-16, I believe it was. The thing that hurts is when a team beats you in the playoffs, you hope that team keeps winning and winning and winning. It makes you look better. But Akron lost in the quarters to Hinton, and then Hinton beat Logan Magnolia in the semis, and then they lost in the finals to Wapsie by 7. So that wasn't one of those years where we probably, we could have been in the finals or whatever. There was a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, we could have beat Akron. I was at that game. It's a matter of getting a few conversions here or there and not giving up big plays, and kind of the same adage we talked about already, just playing good football.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, there's only one second round trophy in the school. So then we're going to move on to the first round teams. This one I think can be interesting because you can be like, oh yeah, they lost in the first round. They were not state title material. I would disagree on at least one of these seasons, and that would be 1991. And I know this has been brought up in several podcasts with Rick and Chad Trolson and some other guys, but man, that one hurts. Backtracking though, 1990, we lost to North Iowa 13-12. We beat them in the regular season handily and then just couldn't get it done in the playoffs. North Iowa lost to Emmitsburg 25-8 the next round. Emmitsburg went on to win the title. They won by a point over Wapsie and Coach Southmaid in the finals. But 91, Garner, literally the two best teams in Class 2A were 10 miles apart from each other and had to play each other in the first round, which no way they're going to keep us separated till the finals by any means, but still.
I'll never forget that regular season game just because my brother came down and watched me play the next day, and them talking about the crowd and the excitement and how they played. And, Garner had a great team, obviously, and so did we, and that kind of goes back again to not playing our best ball, and turning the ball over and giving up some big plays and those kind of things, and just things you can't do. And it's tough to beat a team twice in one season, no doubt.
The motivation factor.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just a tough way to end a season, knowing that we certainly had the capability of what we could have done, both in 90 and 91. Those were certainly good teams for sure.
Garner beat Denver 35-9 in the quarters, beat Sigourney 33-0 in the semis, and then they beat Central Lyon George Little Rock 28-7 in the finals.
Tested.
It's good that they won it all. You don't want them to lose in the next round, but to see them just cakewalk, through the rest of the playoffs, knowing that could have been us pretty easily. But yeah, I love looking at 89-91. So it'd be the 3 years after you graduated. The defense was just phenomenal those seasons.
Oh, absolutely.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 shutouts in those 3 seasons defensively.
Wow.
And that was like Rick's sophomore, junior, senior year, and Kerry Meyer, Travis Hagen, all those guys.
Scotty V. Yep.
Yeah. Of all the games that they didn't shut out teams, the most they ever gave up was 20 points in a game. And then only gave up double digits 7 times in 3 seasons, and 20 was the most that they gave up. I just think that's phenomenal. And that was kind of the era of smash mouth football still. Not too many teams were airing it out much, were they?
It's kind of the more what we're used to, you know, slugging it out the line of scrimmage and playing the run game for sure.
When do you remember that changing a little bit to more pass-oriented teams?
I don't know. But it's certainly different now. I mean, everybody's spreading it out. Very few teams are really trying to run the ball. If I were to say, I'd say probably on end of the 90s, start of 2000 is when it probably really started to noticeably change, I would say. But I think it's been enhanced too by what college teams are doing.
Yeah, but I played 01 to 04, and there were only a couple teams that were throwing it more than maybe 10 times a game.
Yeah.
The one team that could have thrown it every time they wanted to was another game we lost in the first round, Eldora, New Providence, 2003.
Yeah, that was a very good
junior year. I have some bad memories about my playoff experience. They beat us 33-0. I think we had 51 yards of offense that entire game. They beat St. Andrew big. Right? What's that?
It was Timmy Connell that was quarterback.
Connell, yep. Central's All-American quarterback. Tim could have thrown it 30 times a game and completed 28 of them if they wanted to, but they had studs all over the field. But poor Chad Eisman made every highlight reel that season and the next season for getting smoked by, I think it was Cody Fetters was his name. We'd go to the Dome to watch games, and Chad's like, I'm not looking at the board because they're going to show that highlight every single time. And they did. It was nasty. That was one of those seasons. We went 9-0. I think we had like a top ranking. We were good, but we weren't near as good as Eldora.
Yeah.
I think we got some higher rankings based on tradition, but we definitely weren't a dome team that year. The 91 team was a title team. The 1990 team, granted, they would have had Emmitsburg in the next round, which would have been tough, but they were a lot better than a first round team. And then 2014 and 15, I didn't even put on the notes here. I forgot about. Those were 2 teams where we lost in the first round. But those teams were special in my mind because they had just gone through an 0-9 season in 2013. And I remember some legit
Denver we played or Grundy?
Denver in the first round, 2014. And then I think Grundy Center in the 2015 season.
Yeah.
Denver beat us 35-14 and Grundy Center beat us 24-16 in both of those playoff games. But we went 0-9 the year before.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like we were losing close games to go 0-9. We were getting beat by 50 points a lot of those games. Then they slowly kind of got better as the year went on. But I remember legit talks of like, ooh, this might be the end of the West Hancock, tradition. And then that 2014 team went 5-5. I remember AJ Ellingson had an article or a tweet or something, and he said Bob Sanger can still coach some football after going 0-9 last year. He's hosting a first round playoff game a year later. So I thought that was a big season for the program to get things back to where they were a little bit. And then 7-3 the next year, lost by 8 to Grundy at home. And then we this last 5-6 seasons have been, pretty amazing with a couple titles in the semis and quarterfinals. So
yeah, hopefully we can keep her going, right?
Yeah. Oh man, we're going to get to that in a little bit too. I'm excited to talk some 2022 football and see what this season's going to look like. But get to a few more sponsors here. As always, I have the J. Hiscock State Farm team in Britt. They're a proud supporter of West Hancock and the Sanger Legacy Fund. They can help you with all your insurance needs, including auto, home, life, farm, business, and renter's insurance. For a free quote or review, give Jay or Lindsay a call at 843-3563. Go Eagles, and thanks to Jay for hopping on and sponsoring about 40 of these episodes. Then we have Daniels Auto Collision in Charles City. Owner Jason Daniels is a 1990 West Hancock grad. Whether you need a minor fix-up or a complete collision repair, Daniels Auto Collision is North Iowa's premier auto body shop and will have your vehicle back on the road looking better than new. With over 30 years experience and all major insurances accepted, why take your chances with anyone other than Daniels Auto Collision? Call them at 641-220-3805. Email them at danielsautocollision@gmail.com or check them out at danielsautocollision.com. First State Bank takes pride in their community-based values and want to be your bank. They take pride in serving the Eagle Nation communities. They can personalize your banking products to meet the needs of your busy life with free internet banking and their mobile banking app with mobile deposit. Try their bill pay services as well. First State Bank backs their Eagles 24/7, just like their service to you. First State Bank, whether it's personal, business, real estate, or ag loans, they have the products to serve you best. That's First State Bank in Britt. Then we have the Britt Food Center. They're your locally owned, family operated hometown grocery store in Britt. They offer fresh produce, fresh cut meat, fresh bakery, and homemade deli items. They're working hard to meet the needs and requests of their community. The Britt Food Center is a proud supporter of West Hancock schools. They're open 7 days a week from 8 to 8 daily, except on Sunday when they're open 8 to 6. Check them out at brittfoodcenter.com or follow them on Facebook for deals and specials. Call them at 843-4429. That's the Britt Food Center. And then we have Miller & Sons Golf Cars. They're family-owned operation with over 50 years of business experience, owned by Skip and Jim Miller. They worked together with their dad Monty until his passing in 1996. Associated with EasyGo, Miller & Sons now calls on over 1,000 golf cars in 3 states. Companies and courses are always extremely happy with their products, service, and honesty. This has resulted in double-digit growth each passing year. Based in Britt, Miller & Sons employs 18 full-time employees and 3 part-timers. The next generation is being trained as we speak to ensure long-term stability. For more information, contact them at 843-4132. Email them at customerservice@millergolfcars.com or visit them online at millergolfcars.com. That's Miller & Sons. I don't know why I just thought of this, Kevin, but talking about Monty passing away in 96, we won state in 96. At that game, an older gentleman passed away in the stands that day.
It was Art Cheezick.
Cheezick, thank you. I was drawing a blank on his name. The crazy thing is, just today, researching for the book I'm writing, the Britt and West Hancock wrestling and football book, in 1963, we had a wrestler named Glenn Pitkin who won a state title. He was wrestling, they're wrestling Charles City in a duel, and his cousin was the 145 pounder for Charles City. Their uncle was from Forest City. He came to that meet to watch both of his nephews wrestle. He had a heart attack in the top row of the bleachers and passed away on the bleachers about 2 minutes after his nephew wrestled. And they came and pretty much pronounced him dead right as his other nephew was starting to wrestle the 165, the heavyweight match. I don't know why that popped in my head in my research, or while I was reading that ad there. Just that little bit of a correlation there was kind of crazy.
Yeah, some of those events certainly put a little stress on the body, that's for sure.
Yeah, it can age you a little bit. So, all right, let's talk best team to not make the playoffs. Since 1972, when the playoffs started, these teams haven't made the playoffs. The 72, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78 teams, and 79 teams of the 70s. And then the 80s, we missed the playoffs in 80, 81, 82, 83, 89. We only missed the playoffs once in 98. In the 2000s, we missed it in 2001, 2004, 2008, and 2009. And then we missed the playoffs in that 0-9 season of 2013. Not really for 50 some years of playoffs. That's not a lot of seasons we listed off. Who would you say were the best teams to not make the playoffs, and what do you think they could have done some damage in the playoffs?
Well, the one thing that's kind of interesting is the playoffs didn't expand. I think they expanded in 84, so there's only 4 teams that got in.
Yeah.
So it was pretty tough to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I would say hands down the 81 team was really good. I was a 5th grader, so I was just a little tyke running around annoying the guys on this team, and I'll never forget. We finished our season 7-1, and I was talking to Todd Byers in the multi, thinking, boy, I sure hope we get a chance to play some more games. And And we didn't make the playoffs, but that was a really good team. We played Osage up there. We easily could have won. We actually dominated the game and got beat.
14-12. Yeah.
Yep. And I will never forget, because Terry Barton was one of the coaches with Dad. We went to his house afterwards. Dad and Terry were watching the tape, and I laid on the couch and cried till about midnight till I fell asleep. I was so upset.
Yeah.
But that was those guys. I mean, some of the guys like Mark Hudson and Phil Wellick and Rob Whipple, Todd Byers, Gary Kearns, Mitch Hiscox, Jeff Moeller. These are just some of the names I remember. Rich Banker, Jim Swears, Tim Kelly. Some of the guys that were on that team. A very good team.
And by the way, Rich Banker is still the greatest name in Britt West Hancock football history. That's
Dad
phenomenal.
had the bike shop in Britt.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yep.
You never think of that time, but that's pretty cool. That is a pretty cool name.
Yep. Every time I type that for making the record book, I was like, his parents knew what they were doing. That's fantastic. Yeah, that 81 team, a close win at Belmont, 18-14, 38-22 against Rockford, 38-20 against Northwood. Otherwise, they were 3 touchdowns or more better than every team on that roster.
Yeah, it was a good team.
I believe Paulina won the state title that year in 81. No, that was Class A. I can't remember who won Class 1.
It could have been.
Maybe Dyke.
I don't even know what class we would have been in that year. 1A maybe?
1A. Yeah, we were 1A that year. Yeah, the team that I would give the nod to, 1998. That team had Jake Zool, Trinity Dawn, and Mike Stripling. I loved watching Mike Stripling play as a kid. My dad said he would have my mom or Berla or Blanche take over making pizzas on Friday nights so he could go watch Mike Stripling pull down the line and
he was a half miler,
decapitate people. Oh, he was a monster.
He was a great athlete.
Yeah. And I think, we kind of had a rule back then of no long hair and no facial hair to a degree. Stripling could grow a full-on beard. I would have loved to seen him with a, beard down to about here with his helmet and chin strap on, because he was intimidating the way it was. But that 98 team was, they should have been.
Who beat us that year? I don't.
We lost the Lorenz Marathon 32-20. I taught with a guy who played on that team, and he never let me forget that. And then we lost to Emmitsburg 21-7. Otherwise, Forest City, we beat 12-7. We were 30 to 50 points better than every team on our schedule.
Yeah.
That was a team that had so much talent. Should have won that title. Let me go to the stats here quick. That would have been Mark's sophomore year. Jake Zool, Trinity Dawn, Josh Evans, Jason Harley, Nick Schmidt, John Brummer, Zach Osterkamp, Adam Klein were the running backs on that team that all, carried the ball at least 15 times. That's a lot of good athletes right there. You had Mike Rasmussen, Jeff Anderson on defense.
Jeff Anderson get hurt that year too?
Who's that?
Jeff Anderson. He was a good lineman.
I don't know if he got hurt or not, but he was second on the team in tackles. Adam Bird, Mitch Muth, Jason Gaken. Dallas Johnson, Kurt Ridema. I mean, there were some studs on that team that
no doubt
woulda, coulda, shoulda. But then the other 2 teams that stand out to me, my freshman year and my senior year, Ryan Johnson, Steve Eisman, Josh Eisman, Nate Rasmussen's team that senior year got beat by Eagle Grove 20-0 at homecoming. And the game that really stands out to me was on the road against Emmitsburg. We lost 7-0 to Emmitsburg. They scored on their very first drive, and then nobody did anything the rest of that game. We win one of those games, we're probably winning a playoff game or two.
That's 01, right?
01, yep.
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson was a first-team All-American lineman at Central, All-State in high school. He was a monster. He could do whatever he wanted to on that field to anybody.
Yep.
And then my senior year was the 04 season. We went from 2A my freshman year all the way down to A my senior year. And man, that hurt because there was a lot of pressure on us. They're like, oh, West Hancock's in Class A, they're going to win the state title. And we had some injuries and we weren't as talented as we thought we were. Northwood and Riceville were very good teams, but I still think we should have won at least one playoff game that season. Just never got to get there. They switched it that year, I believe, to top 2 teams in the district made the playoffs, and that was it.
Yeah.
They did at larges. I thought we should have been an at large team if they were still going with that system.
Yeah.
But Nick Hartman was a stud. He was a very good fullback. He had 1,148 rushing yards that season. We barely played past halftime in 7 of our
Yeah,
9 games.
either it's a hot or cold. You either had a blowout or
Close game.
2 games. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't really any competitive games to kind of help you prepare for some of those tougher games.
I didn't put this in the notes, but how did your dad handle those years? Kind of, like I'm talking like 84 to now. How did he handle those years where we, went 7-2 and missed the playoffs?
He was a terrible loser. I hate to say that. He was very competitive, and almost to a fault, because it was like, he didn't care who you were playing. He goes, we're going to get in there and compete, and we're going to mix it up, which I think is one of the things I admire about him, because he didn't care who we were playing. We were going to get in there and, give it a shot. And, there's no reason why we can't be competitive. And I think that's kind of a nature of our program, is that, we're hard-nosed, tough kids that just play hard and play to the whistle. And, but at times, it was a little frustrating because he wasn't real fun to live with.
Speaking of being a terrible loser, you said you haven't watched the Dave Patterson episode I did last week. But in my research for that episode, did you hear this at all about the tennis?
Just go with tennis?
Yeah. Do you remember that in 84, I think you and your dad lost to him and Dave Preem in a tennis tournament finals?
So this sounds crazy now, but you look back and my dad liked to play tennis for whatever reason, and he was okay at the best. But him and Terry Barton would play tennis a lot against like Dave Patterson, Dave Preem. Dave Wilson is a really, really good tennis player. Paul Swanson's another one that would play. And dad would throw his racket. My mom was actually a pretty good tennis player. And back in the day, my mom would beat my dad in tennis, and that didn't go well. Well, got rather competitive and broke a few rackets. I know that. But Dave Patterson would have played against my dad.
Well, Dave didn't remember it. He's like, Dan, I saw that in the notes. He goes, I honestly do not remember it. And I'm like, I got to know how coach reacted. And you were a 8th grader at the time, I believe.
Wasn't very old. Sometimes when I got lucky, I got to be his double partner and play with him.
Yeah.
There's a few times I got hit in the back of the head with the ball. All that from him serving her at the ball. But
all I'm thinking is like,
good memories.
He probably blamed Kevin for the loss or something like that. Would have been my guess.
Yeah, he's just competitive. I don't know.
That's good. Yeah. Talk about the 2013 season a little bit. We already talked about that, but that 0-9 season, did your dad at all consider, was that going to be it? Was he like, nope, that's not the way I'm going out?
Dad never talked about quit coaching.
No.
I don't know if it was ever even in his mindset. He loved being involved with the kids and coaching and trying to get better. And, because it would come up in conversations to say, how long are you going to do this, Dad? And I kind of mentioned this at his funeral. He said he's going to coach a year after he's dead. And, he didn't really mean it that way, but, he never really talked about being done coaching. And I think part of it is a tribute to the coaching staff he had. He had a great coaching staff and guys he believed in that were helping him. Mm-hmm. And he always kind of felt if he quit, he was kind of walking away and quitting on everybody. And, but that was certainly a hard year on him, because I think he internalized that they didn't maybe perform how they were capable of performing. And there's a lot of things that going into winning a game and those kind of things, but it was hard on him because obviously you don't like to go 0-9,
Yeah. Did he or anyone ever feel like some of those teams, it was like, hey, now it's our time to take the shot at West Hancock? They've whipped us so many years. Did he ever get that feeling, of?
Well, they took some lumps that year. I know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
some of those teams were like, hey, we're going to take it while we can.
Got whooped on pretty good. But, and I guess that's one of the things I admire, just with sticking with it and staying with it, for doing that for 52 years. That's a long time to keep doing it,
And, in the last couple of years, especially, we've heard, how much everyone respected your dad, obviously. But I'm guessing while he was coaching against some of those other coaches, there was maybe, I don't know if animosity is the right word, but fill in the blank, but definitely some, if we get a chance to, take it to him, we're going to take it to him while we can, because 9 times out of 10, that's coming at us.
And it was, there were some of those coaches at Dad's visitation, and Coach Schumacher from Garner, Coach Capitani from Northwood, Some of Coach Holstead from Forest City, some of those guys that Dad coached against, and Dad had a lot of respect for those guys just because of how they coached and what they did. And there's more coaches than that, but Dad liked the camaraderie of just talking to those guys. And Dad probably was out of the mold of, he didn't really believe in all those camps and doing all this stuff out of season. He wanted the kids to be involved in other sports. And because some of that, boy, if you don't watch it, you're going to kill yourself off with the hours you put in and what you do as a coach. You're not going to be able to do it very long from a personal standpoint, because it wears you out, Plus the kids got to have other things to do too, which I do agree with as far as being an athlete. Make sure you're going to class and all those things that go along with your high school experience.
I've talked to a lot of kids between, where I've taught at Central, you name it. They talk about 3.5 hour practices every night. We were like an hour 45 tops every night. It was efficient and fast, and we got to it and didn't waste any time. I don't remember ever really just standing around much. You were always practicing.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of that gets to be overkill,
Yeah. Let's get to some stats here. Just random stuff I threw out, and I know you said you have some notes. Most rushing yards in a game in the Sanger era history. Belmont Clemmy, 2010. That was the year we lost in the quarters to Galen, 25-6. We had 542 rushing yards against Belmont that game. Do you remember any other games like that where it was just like, holy cow, that must be a typo?
No, that's a lot of yards rushing. The one game I do remember, it's kind of the next one in your notes, is a 73 team against Osage. And the crazy thing about that is, I don't know if we had more than like 8 first downs in the whole game.
Yeah. We ran like 30-ish plays from scrimmage or something like that. And that's on my list here. Yeah, 73. We had 625 total yards. 454 of those were rushing and 171 passing. In the 73 team episode 5, Bob Swear said he wishes they would have put 100 up on Osage that game. He goes, we just had to let them score another time or two and we would have done it, because they didn't.
Well, it's interesting because when we cleaned out Dad's files and some of his stuff, we found there was a letter in there from somebody from Osage just ripping Dad. They were upset that they beat him that bad. And some of it came down to the point, it's like, well, you can't just tell the guys not to play,
Yeah.
Osage had their years. They put a thumping on us too, because Osage has been probably one of the tougher teams we've had to play, because they've been very good over the years.
And, going back to, we were talking about 2013, where some teams were like, hey, this is our chance. Your dad had gone 1-7, 1-7, 1-8. And, to a degree, that was their year to kind of return the favor per se.
Yeah.
And just so happened to be that they were loaded. Sears was like, I don't know if I touched the ground that entire game. I don't know if he got tackled that entire game. So what do? Just fall over? You finish the game. So finish the play. 2019 state championship team averaged 8.17 yards per carry for the whole season.
That's unheard of. I mean, the thing about that team is you take Cole, Joe, and Tate. All 3 of those kids can really run. You get an open field, I mean, nobody's going to catch them, and we were good up front, but 8 yards a carry is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm getting to the notes on to the record book here. We had 654 rushing attempts that season and averaged 8.17 yards per carry. Like, we were up big in a lot of those regular season games. So you throw the JV team in there, and you know how it goes in those backup minutes where you have
some of those kids didn't play much. But that's also a good thing when you try to build a program, maintain a program.
Yeah.
Instead of just blowing out teams, getting those younger guys in there to play second half and get some good experience, because that helps them too.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, you throw the JV out there because you're up 40. The other team keeps their varsity in there for another series or two. And the JV team gets squashed for negative, runs a couple times. Like, that affects the number a little bit. So
absolutely. Those numbers are probably skewed a little bit because they're not really completely legit.
If your starters play the entire game, every game for 13 games, you're looking at probably 12 yards a carry for the whole season. It's just unreal.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was such a unique team. I mean, they were loaded that year. I mean,
yeah, 3-headed monster. And we always give the running backs all the coverage, but that offensive line was
they were phenomenal.
They were the best small town line you'd probably seen in decades in that area. Yeah, that team averaged 411 rushing yards per game for those 13 games. This is the one that really floors me. And I get accused at times with the record book of being the obscure stat guy. Some people make fun of me. They're like, you're just making up stats to make up stats. I'm like, yeah, so but yards per carry, Zach Schlugger, in one playoff game back in 2011, he averaged 31.2 yards per carry with 9 carries. He had, what's that equal out to, like 275 yards rushing?
I know there was that one game at home, and maybe that's the
Galen's
game you're
game.
talking about. I mean, he ran like 327 trap 5 times, and each time it seemed like it was like an 80-yard run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's just a big, strong kid and gets out in the open field and he's gone. Nobody's going to catch him.
For that category, you have to have carried the ball at least 6 or more times in a game. And I think the minimum to make the list in the record book was 12 yards per carry, maybe. And Zach owns the top 4 spots in that list with 31.2, 29.8, 28.8, and 24.6 yards per carry with at least 6 carries in a game. So, I mean,
those are each different games, right?
They're all different games. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
And most of them, I think, were playoff games. So, what are some of the other stats or performances that you wrote down or remember off top?
I guess the thing I just think of, and my brother Mark talks about this, is just the style of play that we play with. We play hard-nosed football. And Mark always says, he makes a note to tell the officials, he goes, our kids are going to play to the whistle. I'm just going to tell you that, because some people don't like that and they want to flag us. But our kids are going to play to the whistle. And I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great attribute to have, not just in football, but, giving great effort and being team players and that kind of thing. I think that's an awesome way for our program to exemplify what we're all about.
I think a good example of that is this last season with what was the playoff game, but where Braden Walk ran like 300 yards for about a 65-yard touchdown run
against Hartley. It might have been against Hartley, I think.
But we were always taught growing up, well, you've blocked this guy, the play's still going down there, why are you still blocking this guy? Go get another guy.
Right.
And that's where those cutbacks happen. You got linemen down 20 yards downfield blocking guys, and I love it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. You get guys giving effort to block for their buddy. That's pretty cool.
To the whistle. Yep. And if you have a record book, you know this, or you might be able to look it up, but only twice has a West Hancock running back ran for more than 300 yards in a game. Do you know who that is? Remember?
I'd bet Tate Hagen and Zach Slugger would be my 2 guesses.
Chris Schlugger both times. Except now I think, actually, I'm looking at the old record book. I think Cole Kelly has one of those 300 yards games. So Cole and Chris.
Yeah.
But,
of all those good fullbacks we've had too, a lot of those guys only played fullback 1 year too.
Yep. And you have 2 good tailbacks, halfbacks. So you don't have the opportunity to rack up that many yards because 3 of you were getting decent, amount of yards each time.
You think of that, Chris Slugger's playing in the CFL now as a lineman. He was a high school fullback.
Yeah, 5,000 yards. Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember the guy who had 3 punt returns for a touchdown in one game?
Yeah, it was Yakel
McCoy.
Yeah.
He, I believe, has 1 year left at Waldorf.
Yeah, he's had a great career. He's done a great job at Waldorf.
He's done well. Yep.
I don't know what year that it was supposed to be, his 5th year, 6th year of COVID. I don't know how but no, he's done that's awesome to see.
Yeah. They I don't know how people keep track of the COVID eligibility.
No idea. No, it's a mess. But
I'm pretty sure Just Settles can come back for another year at Iowa basketball. Yeah.
If they give you another year, just we'll take it, right?
Yeah. His daughter plays softball with my niece over in Pella, and she's a good athlete. Yep. We go over to watch them, and Don DeWard's granddaughter plays on that same team. So I get
Sherry's daughter.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, it wouldn't be Sean's, it'd be the daughter. Yep.
No.
Yeah. So tackles. Let's talk a little defense here. Who do you think would be some of the best defensive players you've ever seen? I'm putting you on the spot here.
You're putting me on the spot here.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of them. I'm trying to think recently. Well, we think of like just guys like Matthew Francis, Tate Hagen recently.
I just say 2021. That whole team was phenomenal.
Oh yeah. That that article that they wrote about Matthew Francis, I keep thinking of that. It was an awesome article, and he interviewed him after games and stuff. He's always talked about the team and not giving up points and all those kind of things. And he exemplified that whole defense. But boy, we just didn't give up big plays. And again, probably the defense that probably played as close to its potential as possible was that team. But I don't know, from a defensive standpoint, boy, there's been so many good defensive players.
I'll throw out one. Travis Hagen.
Travis Hagen would be one of them.
Coach Perkins, I remember hearing him once say he's one of the best I've ever seen.
Super energetic team guy, gets everybody fired up. And, he's a great coach too, just with what he contributed to the program, and was going to tell you what he thought. And been super, super good for the program over the years, no doubt about it.
And I love how I have the podcast coming up with him in about 2 weeks, I think.
It'll be a good one.
That'll be a fun one. But I just remember in 2006, we beat Garrigan like 20-14. I've told this one probably too. And it was, I don't know, week 5 or 6 of the season. I'm by the locker room after the game, talking to John Mallon and a couple of those guys I grew up in church with, and Coach Hagen comes by and we get to talking and like, yeah, congrats on the win. Beating Garrigan's always fun, and whatever else the conversation went to. And he goes, still can't believe we lost to Garner last year. He was ticked off about, a season and a half ago, losing to Garner in a non-district game. And I was like, I love that about him.
He's a guy that gets you fired up. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Justin Palmer, we can't go without talking about his Emmitsburg game in 95. 3 touchdowns on fumble recoveries, all in like 90 seconds of play or something like that. It was just amazing.
Yeah, my mom called me after that game. I don't even know if she knew how to explain it. She goes, yeah, Justin Palmer scored like 3 times, and I'm not really sure how, but he scored very quickly.
Yeah. It was like the same play too. It was like,
yeah.
And then speaking of Emmitsburg, in 93, Paul Jen, Doc Jen's late son, had 4 fumble recoveries against Emmitsburg in the same game.
Yeah. He was another good one too. I mean, he played defensive end, I believe.
Yeah.
Very aggressive, and really was a big part of that 93 team.
Yep. I think one of my favorite records, because it's shared by so many guys, but not a single player in the history of the Sanger era, so 68 to 2019, has more than 1 pick 6 in a game. You would think in 500 plus games, somebody would have done it twice in a game, but there's 25 guys on this list that have 1 pick 6 in a game. Do you know who has the longest pick 6? Can you remember the 97-yarder?
That'd be, was that against Madrid?
No. West Bend Mallard, 2007.
I wouldn't remember that one.
Brady Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brady. I know Brent Nedved had one when I was in school. I'm trying to think of who else. I think Nate Smith had one in the West Line game that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Should I go through all these just for fun?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going in order by yardage, and there's one from 1969. It did not say how long the pick 6 was. Brady Wilson, Nate Smith, Josiah Eccles, Lou Banker, Lance Hill, Mark Stevenson, Marty Gopel, Travis Johnson, Nick Horseman, Mark Stevenson, Cole Wood, John Mallon twice, Eric Rasmussen, Tate Hagen, Gerardo Ibarra, Bruce Gakin, Tony Boothroyd, Nick Horseman again, Justin Johnson, Gerardo again, Rob Thompson, Zach Schlugger, Jared Haxton, Nick Drake, Brent and Brian Nedved, Jason Harley, Dylan Eccles, Brent Nedved again, Jordy Rodriguez, Trevor Nayland, and then Dave Higdon in 69. Jordy and Trevor, two of the last 3. Jordy's was a 3-yard pick 6, and Trevor Nayland's was a 2-yard pick 6. Like you literally caught the ball and fell, and you scored a touchdown. Yeah. That's my kind of.
There's a few in there that had more than one. It sounded like, right?
Yeah.
John Mallon, I heard.
Yep. Horseman, Stevenson, Mallon, Gerardo, and Nedved all had 2, and that's a school record as well for just 2. But I have extended the record book out to before 1968 all the way back to 1899. I don't have that in front of me, and I can't remember how many of them if they've changed a little bit.
Because pass was illegal back then, wasn't it?
The what? Forward pass
was illegal back then, wasn't it?
It didn't happen very often. But Another one that was really cool is field goals. In your dad's era, 68 to 2019, like 8 or 9 guys made one field goal.
All I made was one.
Yeah, so game, season, and career, the record was 1 by like 8 guys in 500 plus games. There's a dude I found in 1922 to 1924, Gordon Armstrong. He had 3 in one game, and I think 6 or 7 in a season, and like 8 in his career. So some of those numbers are going to change when I release out the new record book. Do you know which 2 players have been 4-time all district or all conference?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. It's got to be more recent. Zach Slugger be one?
Yep, he'd be one.
Gosh, who'd be the other one?
He was a freshman during that winless season in 13.
Gosh, I don't know who that would be.
Jordan Weiland.
Oh yeah, Jordan. Yeah.
Yep. I always thought that was kind of a cool fact that only 2.
In the recent years, we played more younger kids, which makes sense just because we become a smaller school and don't have as many bodies, but
have to, yeah. But still to be all district as a freshman.
That's phenomenal.
Be impressive. Let's talk 2022. Football starts on Monday. First game is the 26th. Expectations, I'd say, are maybe higher than they've ever been before. How do you feel about the 2022 West Hancock team?
Well, I think, every season is a new season. I would certainly agree with you. I think there's some high expectations with how well the JV did last year and the kids they have coming back, and we have tremendous support from the community, the parents, the coaches, the school, and that attributes to things as well, and kind of like we said earlier, people care, the kids care. My brother always alludes to the fact is they got a bunch of kids that like to compete, and as long as, things continue with, everybody getting on the same page and, if guys don't care who gets the credit and guys keep working hard, boy, it's phenomenal what you can get accomplished. And we're going to miss those seniors last year. There's no doubt about that, but there's certainly some guys coming up that got some potential to do some big things. So it'll be exciting. I'm excited to watch it. I know that. So
I was at the school a couple weeks ago. We were home to see my sister and her family before they moved to Hawaii tomorrow, actually. And I went to the school on a Friday morning. Mark and I were going to get together and get some of his wrestling stuff for the book I'm writing. And there were like 45 boys at workouts, all football, I would assume. And then I walked by the gym and I heard a bunch of balls bouncing. There was about 20 girls basketball players in the gym with the coaches working out and stuff. And I was like, oh, I love it.
It's awesome. That's how you get better with what you do in the off season in the weight room and getting faster and stronger with, what Coach Gopal and Gopal have done over the years has been very helpful and certainly makes a difference. That's for sure.
I talked to Seth a little bit. Him and Nick Bergart were in there too in the weight room. And he's like, yeah, we have 7th and 8th graders coming in. We have the younger high school kids, the varsity kids, 45 to 50 of them sometimes in here. And they want to leave their mark. That's what I'm excited about.
Oh yeah.
The 73 team, the 96 team, the 19 team got to say, yeah, we won a state championship. Only 3 of, 50 some years that did that. And then the 21 team got 2. And a lot of these kids that are coming back, especially like Barnes and Bright and Coogee and those guys are like, we want to win 3. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes for some pretty cool memories, and it's amazing what can be accomplished with hard work and playing together as a team and just guys that want to get after it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited. I'll be up at the game on the 26th. I was privileged to be asked to MC the Hall of Fame thing, the induction. So I'm pretty excited for that. And I want to get up some games. And this year, Rick and I are actually I haven't talked to Rick yet, but we're going to do it. We're going to carpool a lot more games this year than in the past and talk some football in the car. And he's going to coach and I'm going to annoy the people in the press box and hang out and watch
keep each other awake on the way home too.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we'll get out and stretch. Yeah. Anything else you want to throw out there here quick, stat wise or 2022 wise? Anything we missed?
No, I would just say, from all these podcasts, I've listened to every one of them and really enjoyed it, and thank people for sharing. And it's been really neat to hear the stories and the memories, and brings back a lot of great memories. That's for sure.
Yeah, thanks. I got a few more sponsors to get to here, and then I got to recognize them all one more time, and then we'll wrap it up here. Head up to Wilson's Diner at 441 Main Avenue North in Britt for breakfast, lunch, and supper. They're closed on Tuesdays, but open every other day of the week. So check out their Facebook page for their hours and days open. Call Wilson's Diner at 843-0550. Wilson's Diner is great food at great prices and looks forward to serving you. That's Wilson's Diner in Britt. And then thanks to the Sidetrack Lanes Bowling Alley in Britt for sponsoring the podcast. Sidetrack Lanes open in Britt in 96 under new ownership. Go bowl at 411 Main Avenue North. Enjoy some food and a drink or two while you're bowling. Join the league. Check out their events on their Facebook page. Call Sidetrack Lanes at 843, and this is the easiest number to remember, 4567. Or check out their Facebook page again. That's Ron Bauer and Sidetrack Lanes. Again, I want to thank my 18 sponsors, the Britt Car, Truck, Bike, and Tractor Night Cruise, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, Daniel's Auto Collision, Nick Schmidt, Sidetrack Lanes, Wilson's Diner, the Britt Food Center, Levi Don Trucking, Miller and Sons Golf Cars, Britt Vet Clinic, the World with Nate podcast, the Original Saw, the West Hancock Hall of Fame, Coogee Professional Power Washing, Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance, First State Bank, West Side Eagle Storage, and Eric Krall of Ag Performance. Next up, you'll like this one, Kevin. We're going to do what we call a watch along with the 2007 football team. So Al DeWaard got the game on YouTube. We're going to watch the Alta first round game where they played horribly and somehow came back and won the game in overtime. I have about 6 or 7 of those guys, seniors from that team. We're going to be kind of on the corner of the screen here, and the big screen is going to be the game.
That'll be great.
Watch the whole 45-minute video of the game and then talk a little bit about their football days. And then I have Travis Hagen after that. Like we said, one of the best defensive players, great coach. Episode 50 will be Sarah Swanson. I'm just amazed at getting to episode 50 of this thing. Josh Hartman will be after that, Super Bowl champ. And then I'm going to have a fun one with John Charbonneaux and Rolly Zamago. We'll probably talk a lot of Hobo Golf Championship that episode, and talk about how we're all getting older and a lot less exciting than we were about 10, 12 years ago back in Hobo days. And again, I want to plug the one I'm doing in December with a bunch of the elementary teachers from our childhood. Mrs. Kitchen, Mrs. Savoy, Miss Hildman, Miss McCauley, and Mrs. Farrell. I'd love to get lots of people sponsoring that episode to thank their elementary teachers for what they did. And Kevin, you mentioned the podcast and stuff. This was episode 47. Like I said, Sarah Swanson coming up as episode 50. I had to do a little soul searching the other day. I'm busy. I'm writing the book with I have my kids, my wife, we're going back to school. And I was like, okay, what's kind of my end game with this podcast? So I sat down for a few hours and I went through all the people I've done the podcast with, all the people I still want to do it with, certain teams I think should be on there. And when, I got to kind of think about, how long this is going to go. I decided 105 episodes is the number. And I was like, well, I can't stop without interviewing this person. Oh, I can't not include this team. I have to have this. I'm like, all right, it's going to go for a while. So my goal is to obviously bring in a bunch of money for the Sanger Fund. And then I just want to get as many people on this as I can. Dave Paddard called this it's like a library. You've created like a library of stories for people to tell, and they're always going to be out there for people to watch and listen to. So I think that's, I just can't not include some people, and I know I'm always going to leave some people out, and I've learned to accept that. Can't make everything.
Appreciate all the work you've done on this, Dan. It's been I know it's a labor of love, but
it's going to be fun. So
it's been fun to listen to, and like I said, a lot of great memories.
Yeah. And you were episode 1, and now this is episode 47, and it's changed. Like episode 1 was literally me sitting on my couch, I think. No sponsors, just you and me talking. I think it lasted like 59 minutes. And now this one's going to be about an hour and a half, 18 sponsors on the board. And I'm approaching, I think, 1,000 people on my Facebook page for the podcast. And it's just fun to watch. I'm just happy people are enjoying it, and that's my goal, and raise some money and have some fun. Some days I get to this and I'm like, okay, I got to put notes together for this episode in a month. That takes about 5 hours. But then when I'm actually on the podcast talking to people, I'm like, oh, I don't think I ever want to stop doing this. So that's a lot of fun. So yeah. Sorry, long-winded tangent there, but yeah.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah. So, well, Kevin, thanks again. I could talk to you about football and Britt all day, every day. And sometimes we do that. I'll be driving back from cleaning a building or something. Like, I'm just going to call Kevin. He's probably not working anyway right now. So, yeah. I mean, if you're his boss and you're listening, he works very hard all day, every day.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, Kevin. I appreciate you coming.
Great night, Dan. Appreciate
Yep,
it.
you
Thanks,
bet.
everybody.
Go Eagles.